Hi, good morning, students. Me, Teacher Zheng. Welcome to your week's art class. So, what we have here today is a picture of block of ice in an igloo. So, for this week's topic, you could combine two things, or if you would like to have the igloo as a prominent subject and the block of ice as secondary object, you could also do that. Or if you want to do the other way around, which is the main subject would be the three block of ice or ice cubes, and then the secondary subject would be the igloo. You could also do that. You could also combine animals that lives in cold weather to your subject or the composition. So we are going to start with the cube of ice or the ice cubes. And then make sure that you compose it everything first. Cut this one into three parts. Now try to take notice that this one is a little bit closer or the closest to the perspective if you try to evaluate it properly. So we are going to compose it this one as simple as possible. Then you could just adjust it later. And then this one. It needs to be close here. Now, like what I am saying earlier, that this one is the closest. So as you go along, try to adjust this a little bit lower and this one a little bit higher. Now don't get confused with the simplification of ice cube, because if you notice properly, it is a complex subject. So try to evaluate the perspectives. If you notice this one, it is not a straight angle, meaning this one is a little bit wider and the base a little bit narrow. Try to compose it then properly as much as you can. Don't get caught up first with its details, but rather try to pay attention to the main composition of your drawing. Now, once you've already composed it, your subject, then you could now work on per image or the detail per image of the subject we have chosen, or the subject we are doing. So I'm still making adjustments on this one. Don't get frustrated when you find yourself caught up with mistakes. You just have to constantly adjust. Now, with blocks of ice or the ice cube, we don't have the transition of dark tones to half tones to light tones. The values are mostly in contrast of a high dark and technically a light, because ice cubes are mostly translucent, so we would try to be precise with the high darks and a little bit of details of the ice cube in terms of the droplets. but we will not concentrate on the light parts because you could just leave them unshaded. We were just going to pay attention to the dark tones or the dark shades. So for example, you have now the composition. Try to lay it out first, like a basic shade, as light as possible. Also, try not to do the ice cube all at once, but rather position one first and then start to work on a single image towards the other one and the third one after. Now, another thing to pay attention is this one, the top part of this area is a little bit lower compared to this one, so you need to adjust your drawing here later on, or make this a little lower and then adjust this one a little bit higher. Now that's the reason why I want to adjust on the drawing as I go along rather than create a perfect construction. So I could easily manipulate the drawing while creating a work in progress. Another thing to pay attention for this week's art class is the reflections or the shadows are more prominent compared to the last few classes that we did. So what you guys need to pay attention is the placements of reflections or the shadow. Technically, this one is just a mirror image of the subject, so you could just easily copy this one. The trick here is not to be precise on the lines, but rather work on blurred areas to create a reflection, especially that this one will have minimal ripples of water. So if I'm doing this, I would start working on the reflection first rather than the the color tones or the values of the cube of ice, or the ice cube, or a block of ice. Then slowly work on this one as you go along, and then after you're done with the first ice cube, then you could go with the second and proceed with the third part. Now try to pay attention to the edge parts of the ice cube. Not all of them will have a straight cornered shape. Rather the other parts will have something like this. Okay. And then for the composition, if you want to combine two subjects in, or two photos in one subject, try to pay attention to the perspective of the image that you are putting. For example, what we have here is an igloo. Now if you notice that this side will have a more prominent shape or figure or perspective. Now you could combine this to an area which has almost the same perspective, which is this one, rather than this area, because the left side of the ice cube is showing the other way around. Or you could just simply flip this one, flip the picture, and then you could compose it right here. Now in putting the igloo, I have an option of just creating the entrance rather than the whole igloo. And then what I would do is slowly get the details of the igloo instead rather than the whole shape. Another thing that you could do is change this ice cube into an igloo shape. Something like this. Or if you want to change this one instead or this one, by all means you could combine things for your subject or for the subject we are doing. Another thing that you could do is create a tertiary or secondary subject uh, on the foreground, which has a little bit of water. Try to get, probably if you want a polar bear walking on this area, or a sea lion, or a penguin, either of those animals that live in cold places, you could combine on our theme. Another way to play around with the cube of ice is to put an image inside the ice cubes. Probably I would create a wave of water here and a surfer on top, or if you just want to create a water, by all means you could do it. Or if you want to do a reverse method, meaning you put something that is hot on the cube of ice, you could also do that. Probably if a student wanted to do a fire, you could also do that. Just make sure that you try to find pictures of references so you could compose it properly. By all means, I'm allowing it. The main objective of the art class is the reflection and the proper composition and placement of these three subjects. Or if you want this one to be the main subject, by all means you could also do that. Just make sure that this one has a proper perspective when you draw it. We are not looking for perfect composition. We are looking for a properly composed drawing or piece. So if you want to draw it as big as you can on your paper, please do, so it's much more easier. And I will see you guys on your art classes, and I will send this to your private social medias and emails. So this is Teacher Jeng. I hope you learn something from us here at Studio Andelino in World of Arts, and I will see you on your respective art classes. May everyone have a wonderful day. Stay home, stay safe, love and peace. God bless.